and welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 92, Saturday Breeders' Cup edition. Thank you so much for watching tonight. We had a fantastic show last night covering the Friday races in episode 91. Tonight, we have another fantastic show for you, episode 92, with three special guests, two handicappers and a jockey riding in the Juvenile Fillies race on Friday. Again, thanks for watching, everyone. Please make sure you subscribe right there on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. The subscriptions are going up. It's been fantastic. You can follow me on Twitter. You can see on my name tag, @HKravitz. And also on the scroll down below is my email, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. We have a promotion going right now. It's very important. I have a race day blog. It's very successful. It's very inexpensive. However, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, again, this is only for people that have not subscribed to my YouTube channel. You have until noon Eastern time tomorrow, Thursday. Again, noon Eastern time tomorrow, Thursday. If you are not a subscriber to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button and then email me, or you can also send me a direct message on Twitter. If you're going to use Twitter, I need your email address, and I will send you for free. That's right, for free, my huge Breeders' Cup edition race day blog. There's two of them, one for Friday, one for Saturday. This is a great deal. Again, this is only for people that have not subscribed to my YouTube channel. If you've already subscribed to my YouTube channel, and you'd like the race day blog, the information is right there. Folks, it's $13 a month. It's only like $3 a blog, and you can hit for thousands. We've had a lot of people with a lot of success on the blog, so please support the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have a lot of things going on. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on our two guests. We have 9 races to cover, folks. We're going to cover them relatively quickly, but thoroughly. I showed a lot of replays on the Euros. Please check out episode 90 on my YouTube channel. Episode 90, I went through almost every foreign horse coming in for the Breeders' Cup with my fantastic friend and handicapper from the UK, Davey Lane. So I highly recommend you check out episode 90. If you're watching live, please make sure you comment in the chats. District 13 is here. Yeah. You got to watch yesterday for sure. Someone I have not seen, Katie the War Hero, ET Tank Engine 105. Wow, I love it. Thanks for joining the show. Don Allen is here. We've got Trish Allen. We have all the regular customers. Richard Flax is here. Again, Dean G. Folks, please make sure you comment on the top right-hand side in the live chat. I would love to hear from you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in our two guest handicappers. Sorry, let me take off the comment there from Dean. We have two fantastic handicappers tonight, and I'm going to bring them on right now. The first gentleman is the Paddock Analyst from Canterbury Park. He's also plays a lot of contests, and this guy's been red hot with pick fives. Mr. Brian Arrigoni, and a viewer of the show who's been on my show as a handicapper. He's also been on the Matt Bernier's show. He's an excellent source of knowledge on betting and handicapping. Let me bring them, two of them right now, Brian Arrigoni and Pete Visco. Gentlemen, are you guys ready for the Breeders' Cup this weekend?
Can't wait.
I'm ready to go. This is my second favorite weekend. Usually Kentucky Derby weekend does trump Breeders' Cup for me just because our live racing starts at Canterbury. But I'm ready to go. A lot of big action coming up over the next couple days.
Brian, let me just ask you first. You've obviously someone who is on the live simulcast feed for Canterbury. You've worked there for several years. You've seen a lot of great horses up close. You've talked to jockeys in person. There are going to be most of the best jockeys in the world are going to be there on Saturday. Is there a particular jockey that you're going to follow or you think has a big shot in a lot of races after you've handicapped the card?
I mean, I'm a big advocate of going race by race, horse by horse, trainer by trainer. There's certainly jockeys I fancy. I love the way Luis Saez has a tendency to finish. What happened with Maximum Security stung a little bit because I always loved Maximum Security, but I forgave him after that, and I think he's one of the best finishers in the game. A lot of people fancy Joel Rosario. I think he's great as well, but there's not someone I particularly like or will be persuaded by just because they pick up the mount. But if I had to put a favorite on there, Size would be near the top.
Pete, is there a particular angle that you look for in the Breeders' Cup as a whole? Are you always going to lean towards the Euros on the turf? Do you like, speed in certain races? Just any particular angle over the years, or is it just a very situational based on the year and the track?
No, I try and do it situationally based on the year and the track, like you said. I mean, I think you don't want to get stuck in a rut where you're trying to follow an angle just for the sake of following it, and then you wind up not picking a winner just because you went away from them because of some random reason that might have nothing to do with the current race.
So yeah, there's a lot of different angles. By the way, I because I'm a sicko, I did watch Del Mar today. Listen, you have to. By the way, full disclosure for everyone, I'm playing in the. I was lucky enough to qualify for the BCBC, as many of you folks know, which is the biggest live money tournament in the world. I won a $10,000 seat, and the gentleman on the right side of the screen he's my competitor, but there's about 500 other people. I hear it's gonna be a record. Number of people. Brian is also in the BCBC. Brian, how excited are you to compete in the contest?
I'm pretty excited. I'm pumped up. Contests aren't really my thing. More of like a cash game player. I do prefer the way this one's laid out, where it's live money. You get rewarded for having strong opinions and being a little bit brave and throwing money down at it. So I do like this layout much better than like a pick and pray with NHC. So I certainly wish you the best of luck, and hopefully we're both well rewarded at the end.
You too, my friend. And the great thing about Brian, and I feel the same way about myself, is we're not going to hide picks from you folks. There's a lot of people going to be watching tonight. We want to give you full information. Now, I'm sure Brian and I are not going to give you like our individual tickets that we're going to be playing, but certainly we're not going to be hiding any opinions for any reason. District 13 wants to know how those contests work. We can get into that later, District, but basically there's a lot of different qualifiers that you can enter to get into the BCBC through pick and praise, like Brian said, and other things. And this particular contest, District 13, is only win, place, show, exacta, trifecta, and doubles. Those are the only bets that you can play in the BCBC. So you can't play pick threes, fours, fives, etc. Gentlemen, you see I've got my Breeders' Cup hat. I got my Breeders' Cup shirt. If you look in the background, folks, hanging down, that is my one of my tickets for I think that's my Friday ticket. I'm pumped and ready to go. So, gentlemen, let's go ahead and start. In just about 2 minutes, we're going to Raylu Gutierrez, folks, is going to be on live. We're really excited. Gentlemen, we handicapped the Juvenile Fillies race yesterday. I know I didn't really prep you for this. Brian, I'm going to go to you first. The Juvenile Fillies Friday is a very short field, and Raylu Gutierrez is on Hidden Connection, who's 5-2. Have you looked at that race closely? Any quick opinions before Raylu comes on?
I've dove into it. I'm sure he wanted to be more towards the outside in the post draw. I'm sure he would have loved to be outside of Echo Zulu or Juju's map, one of those two. He kind of got a tough post position as the horse's first two career starts at Colonial and Churchill, drawn very nicely to the outside. But with a horse that's won by open lengths each and every time, and especially when you can stretch out to a mile and a 16th and still win the way that Hidden Connection did, the sky could be the limit. This could be the value player in here because I do think Echo Zulu, along with Juju's map, are going to take a lot of the betting action.
Yeah, Hidden Connection is my top choice, everyone. And it's not because Raylu's coming on. I just think, Pete, that Hidden Connection is going to sit just a dream trip in behind the speed. How did you see the Juvenile Fillies on Friday?
Not surprising based on what we talked about earlier, but that's my top pick as well, which,
oh boy,
again, I hope it's not
we're in trouble,
jinxed,
Pete.
But,
Hidden Connection, we're in a lot of trouble now.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I same reason. I think that the trip, I think hopefully Echo Zulu and Juju's map sort of hook up a little bit, or at least see if Echo Zulu can handle the distance, maybe. I know there's some questions, so we'll see.
I mentioned that I watched Del Mar. Guys, speed did not, listen, it's one day. It's 48 hours for the first race. I have no idea how the track's going to play on Friday. I will say speed did not really hold up very well in the dirt today. And there were also some bombs today. Now, the rails were out at Del Mar today, about 20 feet. They do that, of course, to protect the inside of the turf course. You always see that on big days where they're not going to run, on the rail, a few days for these big days. So speed held up pretty well on the turf, but it usually holds up better when the rails are out. So I'm not too concerned about that. So guys, while we wait for Raylu Gutierrez, let's go ahead and just jump into the first race that we're going to talk about, guys. And we'll just, if we have to, cut off and go back, we'll be happy to do that. For those of you that know this at home, I wear many hats here. I'm the producer, the editor, the whatever, and I had everything ready for the the Friday card. So I'm gonna be clicking a lot of buttons in behind. Brian, we're gonna start now. We're gonna put picks on the bottom of the screen, folks, for everyone. Brian had a very busy schedule today. You're not gonna see his picks at the bottom of the screen scrolling, but you are gonna see my picks and Pete's picks. Of course, Brian will talk about his picks, folks. You're just not going to see them. I'll try to punch them on the bottom there. So, Brian, while I make some adjustments here with the screen and while we wait for Raylu, let's jump into the first race on Saturday. I'm going to let you talk about it. The first race Saturday is, I don't know if it's disappointing is the word, but boy, a 5-horse field. 5-horse field, filly and mare sprint. Why don't you give me your overall impressions of the race while I go ahead and make some adjustments on the screen here?
Well, I mean, this could be the downside to having freakish fillies like Gamine has been. Scratch number 2, Estillo Talentoso is the one who comes out making it a 5-horse field. It kicks off that pick 4, and it almost becomes unplayable for me. The long shots, I try and find value consistently. Gamine's a horse I've tried to beat, and as most of you will know, it hasn't gone well for me because I'm a pick 5 player. Play a lot of pick 5s, pick 4s, pick 6s, things like that. So I've consistently tried to create value by beating her, and she's simply been unbeatable. I do think she'll sit in a good spot. Bella Sofia could pose a challenge. I do think Bella Sofia is the real deal. And if you look, their common race, or their common opponent was Lake Avenue, and Bella Sofia actually beat Lake Avenue by about 13 lengths, while Gamine only beat Lake Avenue by 3 lengths. So I don't put much stock into that, but I did find that interesting. And they also both raced 7 furlongs at Saratoga. A lot of people say time only matters in prison, but I do think you're going to get much better value on Bella Sofia, who is actually your clear second choice, and she ran a faster race at the 7 furlong distance at Saratoga. So I think this race is going to be a little bit closer than a lot of people think, but it's strictly Bella Sofia and Gamine for me. Those are the only 2 you have to use, and just move along.
Brian, if you would take a guess, what final odds you think you'll get at post time on Gamine and Bella Sofia?
I think Gamine's going to be close to 1-5. I really do. I'm not a morning line odds maker, but with that scratch, I think CC is going to be a big overlay. Edgeway will be an overlay as well. Bella Sofia, I don't know. My numbers probably don't even match, so if anyone's paying attention, I'm not a morning line odds maker, but I do think Gamine will be close to 1-5. Bella Sofia, 6-5, 7-5 maybe.
Pete, again, it could be a 2-horse race, maybe CC. You see our picks on the bottom. Brian, do you have any? Again, Brian's is blank there, folks, because again, he apologized he couldn't get his picks. Brian, you want to give your picks so I can put them up there in order, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's 6-5-4 for me.
Okay.
Like I said, I play a lot of pick 5s and things like that, so I don't typically dive into the verticals as much as I do the horizontals, but 6-5-4 for me, and probably the worst race we'll see on the undercard or Breeders' Cup all weekend.
Wow. Now worse because from a betting standpoint, or you just
from a betting standpoint, I'm strictly a bettor, a gambler, a degenerate like many of you. So for me, a 5-horse field does not get me excited.
I hear you, Pete. Listen, there's not much to say. You guys see below, and folks, they don't know my picks. I don't know their picks. We're all going 6-5-4. So, folks, I promise this is not going to happen all night long. But and by the way, appreciate everyone enjoying the show. Raylu's supposed to come on. He told me, we've been communicating. He's supposed to come on at 8:10 Eastern Standard Time. At one point, gentlemen, I might try to send him a text in the next about 5 minutes or so. If I do that, I'll give you a heads up, and guys, I'll just throw it to you for some commentary while I send out a text. So again, if you're waiting for Raylu, folks, I apologize. Actually, we have. Okay, sorry. There was something in the private chat, but it's not Raylu. So again, folks, if you're waiting for Raylu, I'll do my best to bring him on. Pete, do you want to expound on what Brian had to say about the filly and mare sprint here?
Not too much. I don't want to waste too much time. I mean, I see it sort of the same way. 2-horse race. Hopefully, Bella Sofia could maybe sit off and then overtake. I mean, in the lane, that's the way I'm looking at it. I think, like Brian said, the biggest disappointment as a pick 5 player, it's nice. They finally put in a middle pick 5 on Breeders' Cup Day, and you have this race, Life is Good, and the race before this, which has 2 pretty big chalks, which look like they're going to be tough to beat. So you're talking 3 very chalky legs in a pick 5, which is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and Brian, it's been fascinating in the BC, and folks, we're not going to talk about the contest all night long, but it's interesting to talk about because you're going to have some extremely low-priced, horses, and I could see people, Brian, playing literally, and folks, you have to understand, you start with $7,500 of live money. Brian, I could see someone, on Saturday easily spending their entire like $15,000 bankroll on like a $15,000 double. I think we're going to see some crazy betting because of such short, obvious horses, at least in theory.
I've been trying to put the research in. Like I said, I'm not a big contest or tournament player in the past. Fortunate to qualify for the big one. But I was looking at it. People bet their entire bankroll, $40,000, $20,000 last year on Monomoy Girl. Doubling it up was 4 to 5 or even money. They did it on Monomoy Girl. I think the person who finished 3rd place last year did a $5,000 straight trifecta. So people didn't shy away from playing the chalks last year. You can, in hindsight, double your bankroll, give yourself more money in the future to take some stabs and try and hit for a little bit size. But those are once in a lifetime or once in a year type plays. To be playing $5,000 straight trifectas just seems crazy.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I don't know if I can bet a car on a horse, but I mean, I guess if you want to win these contests, that's what you're going to have to end up doing here. We have a question, and Pete, I know this happened to you last time. I greatly apologize. You're going to be covered up a little bit once in a while when comments come on. There's a very interesting question I see on the screen from Dean. Let's talk about this for a second, guys. By the way, I just texted Raylu, folks, so hopefully we'll see what's going on with him. Dean G, do you take into consideration East Coast shippers coming to California for the first time as a negative? Brian, I'll let you handle that question first.
It's a great question. It depends on which surface we're on. If I'm an East Coast shipper coming to the West Coast on the main track, I typically do view the West Coast horses on the dirt a little bit stronger. We've seen it for years past with the Kentucky Derby. Why Bob Baffert, Doug O'Neill have had so much success on the dirt. For me, it's a completely different game on the turf. I think the East Coast horses on the turf have had a lot more success, and they're typically a lot stronger plays on the West Coast. So depending on the surface for me, it is a knock if it's East Coast horses coming to the dirt, but it's certainly a move up if you've got horses on the turf course that are coming to the West Coast.
A lot of these horses have got there early, Dean. They've been working over the track. I think it's a little bit overrated, frankly. By the way, folks, you can't see, but in the background, if my guests can hear me that just joined, if you can give me a thumbs up with my guest, Raylu Gutierrez is about to come on. Raylu, if you can hear me, I saw you and then your camera. Now your camera's on. Raylu, you can thumbs up. You can hear me. So, folks, without further ado, let's bring him on. Looks like he might be in the car. We're going to bring on a jockey who is riding in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. He's had an excellent year. I'm very proud to have from somewhere in California, Raylu Gutierrez. Raylu, how you doing today?
Hey, what's up? How are you?
Hey, how you doing? Are we in the car? What's going on there?
Yeah, we are in the car. We're just running around, just last-minute errands.
Listen, we're not going to keep you long, Raylu. We greatly appreciate you coming on. For someone to come on literally 48 hours, before the race is just awesome. Really appreciate it. I also want to give a shout out to Paul Halloran, who I think Raylu, because you interviewed him, or he interviewed you for coming on the show. So welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast. Raylu, let's talk real quick. Before we get into your mount on Hidden Connection, Raylu, you've had a fantastic year, 108 wins, $3.46 million in earnings. Young man, you have had quite the year. If you guys know what percent jockeys make, Raylu might be driving, in a very fancy car right now. I don't know, but Raylu, you've had a great year, 70% win percentage, 43% in the money. Raylu, what do you attribute your success to this year?
Well, some really good horses, a really great agent who I'm driving his car actually right now.
Jose
So,
Santos Jr., correct, for people that don't know?
yes, yeah. So I'm driving his car around right now,
Okay.
and just I've just been very fortunate to have him, and we've worked really, really well together. And the clientele that he has and that I've been able to build with, it's been phenomenal, and we've just been able to really just gel together. And we're a very ambitious young team, and we're very motivated to keep moving forward. And everything's been smooth sailing from there.
Raylu, you've ridden some big races. Obviously, you've won 2 Grade 3s, if I'm correct, but this is your first Breeders' Cup, I believe. Is that
Right.
correct? So,
Yes, it is.
Rayleigh, before we get into Hidden Connection, just tell me your emotions, your feeling riding in, I guess you could argue, the biggest race of your career in front of millions of people. Are you excited, anxious, nervous, confident? Describe your emotions going into Friday.
I'm confident. She's a really great filly that'll make you feel confident, and from there, we just take it step by step. Really, she does a great job, and she's quick. She's tactical. She'll put me in a position where there's really no need to be nervous. At the end of the day, it'll be may the best filly win.
You are 26% with Brett Calhoun. I don't know if you knew that, but the trainer, Brett Calhoun, an excellent trainer, 53% in the money. Before we talk about Hidden Connection, the horse specifically, I got one more question, Raylu. Talk about your connection, no pun intended, with Brett Calhoun, with Hidden Brook Farm and Black Type Thoroughbreds, the owners.
Well, my connection with Brett Calhoun really started with his assistant, Jay Severs, and he has all of my credit. He has all the credit because he really introduced me to Brett, and he gave me a lot of opportunities at Lone Star to shine. I rode their best horses, and that literally brought me to Colonial. Jose really pushed me to go there. I was really just trying to go back home to Finger Lakes, relax, for the summer. But
Sure.
Jose was having none of that. And going to Colonial, we really just stepped it up, and Brett just gave us everything. And as we've grown, he's just continued to give us more and more better horses. And I've been able, at the point now, to be on some of his top horses at least in the mornings. And even talking with Mr. Calhoun and just texting him or just communication. You can't beat it. And our communication with the whole staff and it's really with Brett, myself, and Jose, and it's really great. And the grooms, exercise riders, we're a really great team. And then just the owners, I mean, they've given me the faith, and the confidence to ride this really promising filly that we have the utmost expectation for. And I'm really, Jake Ballas, Maddie, it's just, I'm really just glad that I was able to stay on her.
By the way, if you keep driving, please, Raylu, please don't get in an accident, or I'll never live it down. I'll feel awful.
I'm parked now.
All right, just be careful,
now,
man, because if something happens, you lose your mount. I don't know what's gonna happen. My show will be over. So be careful. I'm glad you parked.
I'm parked. Yeah, I'm parked.
All right, that's cool, man.
So
I appreciate that. So I don't know if you have a chance. I put the past performances on the screen. I don't know if you can see them, Raylu, but you talked about the Colonial race. I'm going to show the Pocahontas, and if you don't mind, I'm going to show the replay, and you can walk us through the race. Before I show the race of the Pocahontas, Hidden Connection was 9-5. Were you confident that this filly could stretch out? She's by Connect, out of an awesome, again, mare. So you probably figured distance wasn't going to be an issue.
Yeah, we were extremely confident, and I've been studying more and more pedigree as, going on with my career and seeing these new horses and, their past performances. And, I was just for breezing her in the mornings, I've just been very confident with her because she's able to maintain her speed. And, a lot of times you have horses they're quick. They can work a 47 to 48, but then, they go out in 101, they can't maintain that. And she does a really great job maintaining everything that she needs to do. And, it was going in there. I really just told myself, just get a good break, get a forward position. I'm sure she'll do the rest.
We're going to go ahead and watch the race, and then after we watch the race, Brian and Peter are going to have one quick question for you, and then we'll let you go. I don't know if you can see your phone that you're probably on there, but I know. I'm sure you obviously remember the Pocahontas. Hidden Connection came from the 9 hole, broke real well, and you got great position on the first turn from that outside slot, Ray Luz. Go ahead if you want to. If you can see your phone there and talk about the race, walk us through a little bit. I won't interrupt you. I promise.
So right here, we were fortunate enough that one of the horses scratched, and I had a good feeling that Todd was going to clear me. He had speed the previous time. I really just wanted to get outside of him, and I knew I had a lot of horse. Which what I did around here on the first turn was you can't really do it if you don't have horse, and I knew that I could be extremely aggressive with her and push whoever's in there down. And once I got next to Tyler, and right here, she's got her ears just pricked up like she's doing nothing, and right here, I just knew I was actually really confident right here that I was going to win the race. She's doing this so effortlessly. Someone's going to have to run me down and really, really run me down.
Yeah, I'll fast forward just a little bit to the turn, and I'll tell you what I like about this filly, Raylu, is she seems very push button. I mean, once you press the button, she just took off, and she was in between horses just for a few seconds, which I think for a 2-year-old is really good experience because you don't know what you're going to face, of course, on Friday.
Yeah,
correct?
Absolutely. I mean, like right here, I'm just, I got her in a good hold, and I'm just waiting for someone to come and attack me for me to go. And when the 5 came up, I really just moved my hand gently, and she responded. It was game over from the 7/8 really. So just right here, she just switched to the right lead, and she's getting away.
I did want to ask you. You went right-handed, and then you did go left-handed here. Were you afraid that she was lugging in, or was this just an experience thing for her?
At this point, I barely used the crop, the first time. So I want to see, if you do anything, what you got in front of all the people, the noise. She handled everything effortlessly. And this part right here, I mean, I'm never going to keep it going, but after the wire, that's when the show really started.
Well, I wanted to freeze it because Raylo, I don't know if you guys can tell on the screen. I think that's a fist pump to the crowd. Is that correct? Right there?
Yeah, it sure is. I was very excited. But with all that, she just really took off after the wire. And it was kind of like, wow, I mean, how much horse left do I have?
Sure. I mean, that must have been a great feeling. Brian, do you have a quick question for Rayleigh, either about Hidden Connection or, about riding in general?
Well, speaking of hidden connections, I just got to thank you for when you got your start over at Naira, and you and Rudy Rodriguez had a good thing going for a while with some big prices out there. So it's glad to see that you and Jose Santos have picked up right where you left off. But you've had a ton of success all around the country, been fortunate to ride at a lot of different tracks, but probably a little less familiar with Del Mar. So you don't have a mount on the undercard. What are some steps you're going to try and take and get familiar with that surface?
Well, I've watched the Juvenile Fillies from, I think it was 2017 or 18 from Del Mar. I've watched that like at least 20 times. And I've just watched a bunch of races from Del Mar leading up. I mean, it's a much of a shorter stretch, and the amount of 16s going into that first turn, it'll be a little bit tighter, but, there's plenty of time to get position. And, it's a 6-horse field. There's not too much to think about, but, we'll be well prepared. I mean, we'll do our due diligence, watching if there's any biases on the track. I mean, typical California tracks are more speed biased, and anyone can tell you that. So we'll be watching, see if the rail is playing better or outside. But I'm sure the Breeders' Cup Committee will have the track trying to play fast or at least as fair as it can be. And we'll do our due diligence and be prepared. And my agent is probably the most well prepared agent in the country, besides a few other agents. So he'll have his homework done, and we have some analytics people that do their homework too. So I'm sure they'll hit me up on Twitter.
Even though it is a 6-horse field, the post draw, you guys drew post number 2. Echo Zulu's got a ton of speed. What are steps you guys took to prepare? I know in both of her races she was drawn to the outside, handled it nicely. But you guys might be down on the inside this time. Have you guys worked on the inside?
Yeah, so, I mean, she's, the first time that we rode her, she was outside, and last time she was outside, but, we put her behind horses, and we've had great opportunities to get some dirt on her, and she takes it great, and from there on, I mean, I don't mind being the 2-hole. We're going to save some ground if we have to, or if not, but we're just going to break normal, be aggressive out of there like everybody else, get our position, and we'll go from there.
Rayleigh, we got two quick questions, and we'll let you go. I've got Pete. I'm going to let you go ahead and ask a question of Rayleigh, and then there's one question from a viewer, Rayleigh, I'd like to ask, and then we'll let you go on with the evening if that's all right. Pete, quick question for Rayleigh.
All right.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Rayleigh, quick question. Do
What's
you,
up?
aside from the horse itself and the race and the preparation in terms of analyzing the race, is there any special preparation personally you'll do for a race this big, as opposed to maybe just a random Thursday fourth race at some other track? Personally, aside from the horse itself.
Nah, I mean it's another race. No matter how many zeros it has behind it, I have a job to do, and I've been entrusted to get the job done. So I'll just have my normal routine. Typically, I run jog, walk for an hour. The days that I ride, so I'll probably just try to get that in around 10 in the morning, and just to just get my stretching in and do my cardio, and we'll go from there. I mean, my family will call me, and we'll talk, but. It's just another day of racing, and I have a job to do, so we're gonna keep it simple.
Awesome.
District, last question, Rayleigh, and then I'll let you go here. District 13 says he sees jockeys on good horses sometimes get stuck on the inside and lose because they can't get out. What do you do to prevent that? Is that just a matter of racing luck? Or I think listen, I've never ridden a horse, Rayleigh, but I've handicapped and watched 30,000 races. I mean, I would assume you watch a lot with the inside horse, because sometimes that inside horse, if he or she drifts even just a little bit, and you see that opening, I'm assuming you're not afraid to let Hidden Connection come up the inside if the race plays that way. V-Quest won last year doing that. I'm not saying you're going to look to come up the inside, but obviously that's one way to prevent that, correct?
For sure. I mean, to be the best rider, I mean, you have to be calm in every situation. I mean, and you could say that, I mean, like, tis the law. He got trapped inside in one of his races, and that you could say it cost him, you could say it couldn't, but it's just one of those things that it happens. But the most important thing is be aggressive and stick to your horse, stick to your game plan. I mean, I get Echo Zulu's quick, and I get Juju's map to be quick, but I ride Hidden Connections, and I'm going to ride my horse. I'm not riding their horse, so I'm going to come out of there running, and I'm going to establish my position, and we're going to go from there. If I got to take back, I'll take back. If I got to get outside, I'll get outside. But as far as no one else, my motto is, I mean, I like being forwardly placed. It's my style, and I'm not going to let anybody else, especially if I have a live horse, dictate my position ever. Whether it's a $5,000 claim or it's $1 million race. I mean, we just try to ride them the same, but. If we do get stuck inside, hey, I mean, we're saving ground. I mean, but I'm sure she's got so much class that those lanes will open up, and you just got to be patient enough to wait for them to open up.
Well, the nice thing, Tarabi, the 4, also has speed. I mean, you've got 3 speed horses really on the outside, so we're never going to ask you your strategy, of course, but, I'm sure you can just break and see what happens. And what I really like about the race for you, particularly on Friday, Rayleigh, is the 1 horse doesn't seem to have a lot of early speed. So as long as you break, you should be able to get over to the rail pretty easily, and make some decisions from there. Not only that, it's a small field. So in theory, you're only going to have 2 horses behind you, right? The 1 and Sequest, who's a nice closer. So you'll have a good sense, really, of where everyone is because it's such a small field. That's also an advantage for you, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's when you dwindle it down to these small fields, it really becomes more of a jockey's race. And, in terms of, things are less likely to happen because a random horse is in the race. Now, we know where everyone's going to be. Like you said, the 1 and Sequest, they're going to close, and the 4, I mean, she got a bad break last time in the race against
the spin away.
Yeah. So, yes, and she's been working out of the gates, and she's going to be sharp, and Sherry DeVue has her horses sharp, majority of the time. So I expect that horse to break and try to get a good position and not let them get away. But either will but I expect Juju and Echo to get up there. But again, Florent and Joelle are elite riders, so they know what they're doing. But it's horse racing. I think I'm going to get the trip, just like you guys say, and. I mean, I think we're gonna shake and bake at the end with the slingshot.
Man, I'll tell you what, it'll be awesome. Last question, I'll let you go. How's the track been playing in the morning for us handicappers? So I know the track's been a little bit deeper out in California the last year or two for safety reasons. Do you feel like it's deeper than some of the New York tracks, or maybe the Lone Star or whatnot? Can you tell the viewers what to expect from track conditions based on what you've seen, and how is Hidden Connection feeling in the mornings these days?
She's feeling great. I mean, all these horses that I've seen competing in this juvenile field are feeling great, but she's feeling great. And as far as these track conditions go, we're gonna see how it plays that day. Let's see how the climate does. I mean, Churchill is usually a faster track. Colonial is a super fast track. Oh my goodness. So I mean, they get over that, but these deeper tracks for safety issues, we'll see that, but that's not a problem. I mean, she's got a lot of stamina, but she's very agile. She's very light. She's not a hefty horse, and I think she's, whether deep or fast, she's got no problem adjusting just because of her body.
Raylu, it sounds like you're ready to eat some dinner. We really appreciate you jumping on. Raylu, we'd love to have you on the HHH Racing Podcast for like a full 45-minute segment at some point. I'll tell you what, after you get your win on Friday, we'll have you back on. How does that sound?
Shoot me a text before, and I completely forgot. I'm reading PPs over here.
That's all right, man. Listen, we all appreciate it. We're going to let you get back to your job. Raylu Gutierrez, thank you so much for coming on to the HHH Racing Podcast. Good luck, man, on Friday. We'll be pulling for you. Have a great night.
I appreciate it. I hope I see you guys out there.
All right, take care. I will be out there. Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Cool.
All right, bye-bye.
Have a good night, guys.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Thanks,
care.
Raylu. What a great – I'll tell you what, guys. I almost feel guilty, gentlemen, because he's driving to dinner. He's looking at PPs. I mean, we're sort of interrupting his plan, but I'm sure it'll be good. He sounds confident, don't you think, Pete?
I do. He sounds very confident. I mean, I watched a couple interviews with him just once I knew he was going to be on the show, and he seems like a pretty confident guy all the time. And I guess it makes you a little more confident when you have such a good horse underneath you too.
Brian, he's such a classy kid, and he's really made some great strides quickly. Again, just piggybacking off of Pete, he sounds like he's going to break and let the speed go, and then it's hard for me to imagine him not getting a good trip in this race. Is she good enough? I don't know, but I know you're a big trip guy like I am. She sure looks like she can trip out, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. Go ahead, Brian. I don't know if you're going to say something.
No, I mean, she should get a great trip. I think Echo Zulu is going to try and clear off. The 5's not going to be far behind for sure, drawn right on the inside of Echo Zulu. But, yeah, it wasn't long ago. He was running 5K claimers at Finger Lakes. He went up to Naira, had plenty of success with Rudy Rodriguez. Now he's got a great agent, Jose Santos, and suddenly he's in the Breeders' Cup, and he's going to be on the second or third choice. So it's awesome to see. If you work hard, you can truly accomplish anything.
It's great. All right, let's move on, guys, because we have a lot of races to cover, and we don't want to be here until midnight. So the next race we're going to cover right now, I'm going to bring it on screen. Pete, I'm going to let you go first as I bring on our picks. I'm not a big fan of turf sprints. However, there is a pretty darn good turf sprint every year in the Breeders' Cup. They're going 5 furlongs. You see our picks. Brian, I know you sent me the picks. I appreciate it. We'll get Brian's picks up on the screen here in just a second as I go ahead and bring up the field here, Pete, here it comes, for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Pete, you are going with the same horse that I am. In fact, Pete, we have the same 2 horses in a 12-horse, 5-furlong turf sprint. Emirati Anna, a very nice horse for Kevin Ryan coming from Europe.
Oh, wait, actually, my picks there, I think, are for the sprint itself, not the...
Oh, did I type in it wrong there? Okay.
Because you have race 8 there, the sprint.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry, my bad. There we go.
Because I was like, wait a minute, I don't
my
like
fault.
That's not my horse.
Listen, this has been I've had so much fun getting ready for this, but this has been a very long week, folks. You're right. Yeah. There we go. My bad. You've got the 4, Lieutenant Dan, a big fan of Forrest Gump, I believe.
Yeah, not exactly, but I'll take whatever karma I can get if I'm as successful as he was at parts of that movie. Then yeah, maybe. This was actually I used to be the same as you. Turf sprints weren't my bag. I didn't necessarily make a lot of money, but. And in this one, I put a little grid together, and I had 7 horses as win contenders out of the 12. So it's not exactly a slam dunk. In the end, I sort of landed on Lieutenant Dan strictly because on this course, it's nice to have someone who's obviously familiar with Del Mar and the 5 furlong specific distance. And he's just been in super good form. And I mean, this race didn't come up. I mean, you have a favorite who looks a little soft, and I'm sure we'll get to him. And the rest of the field is good, not great. So I just figured I like the horse for course for once. I mean, I always like that angle. I like the form, the figures. The figures seem to match everyone, and this horse is just red hot. So that's where I landed.
And in second, you have a Euro, a case of you. And by the way, again, folks, episode 90 of the HHH Racing Podcast, Davey Lane and I spent an hour and 45 minutes going through all of these Euros. We literally watched video and showed video of all these horses, including a case of you. Was there anything in particular you liked about this Euro, Pete?
I did. When I was watching the replays, the thing I liked the most was I just thought that horse had a ton of kick. So in these turf sprints, a lot of times you wind up coming off the pace, and that horse just seemed to be sort of push button. And when you watched it next to Glass Slipper, who was maybe Glass Slipper's not in as good a form as last year, but still a case of you just seemed to overpower that horse and run by him in each or run by her at each race the last couple. And I just like the kick, and I figure putting that horse on hopefully a faster turf is just going to accentuate that even more.
Yeah, I think the Euros are very live in this spot. And then you have the 10. I'm going to let Brian talk about the 10 if you don't mind, Pete, because Brian's got the 10 on top, which I believe is Gear Jockey. Is that right? I'm sorry. Go ahead and look at the PPs. Am I right about that, Brian?
Yeah, no, it's Gear Jockey. I mean, this
Gear
is
Jockey's Gear Jockey is a horse that I loved last time. Anyone who follows my podcast and my blog, and Brian, you received my blog as well, I believe. So appreciate that. Anyone who's fans, we got Gear Jockey at a ridiculous almost 6-1 last time at Kentucky Downs.
Yeah, he was one of the only singles I hit at Kentucky Downs, and fortunate enough to be 6-1 that day. But this horse I've been chasing around since the championship meet at Gulfstream Park. I had notes on him last year. Even when he's winning, it always seemed like, man, I wish they would try him one turn or sprinting. And since they've made that change, they went on a layoff from May to July. He could be a perfect 3 for 3. He lost at Saratoga. He did lose the fast boat, but he had a horrible trip that day. It was off slowly. I thought he finished great. Jose Lascano seems to fit this horse well, and there's going to be a ton of speed. I think Gear Jockey should get a great trip. Obviously, post number 10 for a horse who's going to be mid-pack to the back of the pack is not ideal, but the one thing I do know is he's distance challenged. He's handled two turns in the past, so that extra bit of ground is not a concern for me. I think he's got a great turn of foot. He's shown it at both Saratoga and quirky Kentucky Downs. I think Golden Pal here, a lot of people are playing against. I've seen a lot of Twitter chat that, Golden Pal's a pitch or he's a vulnerable favorite. He's done everything they've really asked of him. I mean, out in York, it was a tough spot. He ran well that day. But last time, he really got challenged on the front end. I mean, they went 56-3. Horse ran right up to his eyeballs, and he kicked on, and I thought ran very well and wants extra ground. He is going to be challenged on the front end. I think Emirati Anna at 5-1 is a value player for me. I won't be using Glass Slippers at all. I know it's last year's horse, but I think Kevin Ryan has moved on to Emirati Anna, who could be a little bit closer to the pace. In 5 furlongs, you're going to want to be able to be tactical in here. Glass Slippers just got a perfect trip last time in 5 furlongs, maybe a little bit too short. But I'm with Pete. I think Lieutenant Dan could catch a piece in here. Could be a big overlay at 6-1. I mean, the horse is 8 for 16, has tactical speed, doesn't need the lead, and is undefeated at Del Mar. So this is a race for me. I've got Gear Jockey on top, but starting that all-turf pick 4, I'm going to spread out, and I'm going to spread in my pick 5, try and catch a piece in here. Golden Pal is going to be an overlooked favorite, a pitch for some. I do think he's got a chance, but this is a race I'm going to try and catch a price.
By the way, that turf pick 4 I'm definitely playing because a lot of the dirt races, unfortunately, are smaller fields or seem chalky. So I'm playing that. I love Emirati Anna in here, folks. I've talked about him with my show with Davey Lane. You'll see it on the blog. This horse is absolutely red hot right now. Won 3 starts back, going 5 furlongs. I like the fact that Emirati Anna is not slow out of the gate, guys, and also seems to break well and shows speed. You cannot be far back going this 5 furlongs at Del Mar. You got to be up close. Winter Power is an absolute monster that he lost to 2 back. And the last time won going 6 furlongs, a distance that, frankly is too far for this horse against Starman, who's a very nice horse. So I'm all about Emirati Anna. I think he's going to sit right off a Golden Pal. And by the way, I want to thank Pete because I made a little addition. I know there's a lot of numbers on the screen, folks, but if you look carefully, you might see some red and blue numbers. These are the time form paces. When you see a red number, that means the pace is fast. When you see a blue number, that means the pace is slow, or that fraction, or that part of the race. And if you don't see anything, it's neutral. Look at Golden Pal, folks. There's very few reds on the screen. What does that mean? That means Golden Pal has really not been involved in very fast paces. So I'm sorry with you, Brian. I am against this horse in general. But I'll tell you what, there's just not a lot of early speed in this race, which is crazy going 5 furlongs. Usually you see like an Obviously, we've seen a million really good, a Pure Sensation. We can go back and forth on the great speed horses we've seen going 5 or 5.5 in the Breeders' Cup Turf. There just isn't a really, really high quality speedball in this race. And I got a bad feeling I'm going to be wrong about Golden Pal, and he's going to be actually an overlay, and which means he's under bet and like win it like 5-2 or something. I hope not, but it's possible. But I like Arrigoni in here. I like Lieutenant Dan also. I agree with Pete completely. I think he is going to set a real good trip as well. I want to just two other horses I want to mention real quick. Gear Jockey, I love. Brian, I'm a little concerned this is too short. Even Rusty Arnold said this might be too short for him. If this race was, Belmont 6 furlongs or back to Keeneland 5.5, I'd love this horse. I'm a little worried this race is too short for Gear Jockey, but I like him as a horse. Last horse I want to mention, guys, is a complete bomb. Okay, Charmaine's Mia. I don't want to go on and on, but this horse has got numbers. I granted this mare got these numbers going a mile, but I think she's going to sit a great trip off the speed on the inside. There's not a lot of speed to Charmaine Mia's outside. And last time the Eddie D, I bet her at 5-1. She did not race great, but that was a crazy fast pace down the hill where they went sub 43. Granted, it is downhill, but sub 43 to the half. Guys, if Charmaine's Mia is in the try, I will not be surprised at a huge number. That's sort of my bomb play, but I love Arrigoni in this spot. All right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and move on to the next race. The next race, we talked about small fields. This is not that small field, but is there an absolute freakazoid monster in this race? In the dirt miles, I go ahead and switch the screen, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up the horses in this race. Pete, I'm going to let you go. Actually, let me go ahead and bring up the PPs for everyone here real quick. Or not the PPs, the field. Guys, should we just say it together? 3 words. You know the 3 words I'm thinking about. This race is all about 3 words. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Life is good. I mean, Pete, I think this is the best horse of the entire weekend. I don't mean best bet. I mean most talented horse the entire weekend, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I think he sort of towers over this field. It came up a little light. I mean, obviously, maybe more than a little light. But it's funny, as I was looking at it, and maybe this is just me trying to talk myself into something, Silver State and Ginobili weren't as far off as I thought, maybe at a mile. And like I said, I could have just been dreaming to try and get something that's not a favorite for one of these races. But I have a feeling that it's just going to wind up being a show for Life is Good, and anybody who bets against them is going to look a little bit silly.
By the way, folks, if you see me, if the scroll disappears, it's because I'm typing in Brian's pick. So that'll be happening throughout the show here. So I apologize for that. Brian, listen, I love Brian Arrigoni because if you don't watch Canterbury, bet Canterbury, you folks really need to. And it's not just because Brian's a friend of mine or because he's on the show. I covered Canterbury all summer long for In the Money Media's blog. So I literally handicapped every single race the entire summer at Canterbury other than the quarter horse races. Brian and I think very similarly in ways. We try to find interesting horses, sneaky horses. This game is all about EV, expected value, and about, and your ROI. We could sit here and, pick 2 to 5 shots all day. Here's a perfect example, folks. I'm sure Brian's will admit it might not work out, but 8 rings is his top choice, and you're going to get buffo bucks if this horse upsets the field, Brian.
I'm about making money. I'm a gambler and a degenerate at that. So anytime I see China Horse Club or, Todd Pletcher, Irad Ortiz on a 1-5, 2-5, I'm okay losing if that horse wins. So Life is Good. He's done nothing wrong. He's a deserving favorite. Like you said, he's your most likely winner of the entire weekend. But for me, I see a horse who's going to be 10 cents on the dollar potentially. This year so far hasn't done 2 turns. He did 2 turns last year at Santa Anita, handled it beautifully, and beat Medina Spirit rather easily. But you've got a horse who's been based on the East Coast, hasn't been over the Del Mar surface since the debut under Bob Baffert. Life is Good is strictly the one to beat, but this horse is going to be challenged up top. These Japanese horses are awfully quick, and I know people eye roll that they're even in the race, but let's not forget that Jasper Prince, put 2 lengths on the field last year in the sprint, was entered in the sprint and opened up by 2 or 3 lengths on the backside at Keeneland. And Ginobili's awfully quick, going 109. They're going to be cooking up top. So I think
sorry to interrupt, but Jake thinks Ginobili's beating Life is Good. So there's some Ginobili love out there. I've heard a lot of buzz about this horse. He's very good right now.
Yeah, Ginobili's one of those horses that got good very suddenly. And Baltus says it was the addition of blinkers. Yeah. I guess we'll go with that. It's a good horseman maneuver for sure. But that horse was in the claiming ranks for a long time before getting good. So, I mean, it's a value play. I could look like a complete idiot when Life is Good wins by the length of the stretch, but I'll take my chance because he does have speed in Ginobili, the 2 Japanese horses in Silver State, and 8 Rings. I've seen it time and time again where I pitched Bob Baffert, and what do you know? He's winning the biggest races, and you didn't have him at a decent price. So that could be the case with 8 Rings.
I think this is a great. I don't want to be contrarian or Brian give you any throw you any shade, but I think it's interesting to look at the PPs here, Brian, because if you look at the PPs, you see 8 Rings has been involved in a lot of fast paces, folks. When you see all these reds, these are fast fractions. The problem is when you look at the races that have been involved with fast fractions, Brian, 8 Rings does not run well. He got his 98 last time, pretty much walking on a slow pace, going 23-3, 47-2. Based on the pace scenario, how do you think he wins this race? Is he going to sit off and he's just going to have a close that's good enough, or do you think he can actually somehow get to the lead?
I'm not planning on him getting a lead. I think he'll be tactical in this spot, but there's no doubt about it. He needs to step up. His best race is not nearly as good as Life is Good. There's no doubt about it, but I do believe he's going to be 15-1, and it's Bob Baffert, and Life is Good, strictly the one to beat. It's simply a value play for me. It's going to be a race where a lot of people are going to single Life is Good and move on. I'm going to go 1, 2, 5, and 8. I'll actually throw in one of the Japanese horses in there. Ginobili, I just don't see him clearing off from the inside of Life is Good. His numbers fit, but for me at 7-2 or 4-1, he'll really knock my socks off if he goes from optional claiming 40K and then puts it to Life is Good on the front end all the way around.
Full disclosure, guys, I was ready to bet Ginobili in this race, like full stop. But 2 things I don't like, and you mentioned, Brian, you mentioned both things actually, Brian. Number one, the 4-1 is a ridiculous morning line. If this horse is 4-1, I would never touch him. And number 2, there's a ton of speed in this race. I mean, the Japanese horses, folks, are fast early. They're not going to win the race. I'm just shocked. But these are like speed horses. So, they're all going to send, right, guys, I would think, to try to beat Life is Good. So I'm expecting I think the 2 is going. I think the 3 is going. I think the 4 is going. I think it's very fast pace here. And actually what I think is going to happen, guys, and we haven't even talked about Silver State, but what I think, my gut feeling is that Life is Good is actually not going to be on the lead. I think Life is Good is going to say, fine, go ahead. What is it, Johnny? It's IRAD. IRAD is just going to, let these inside horses go crazy. I see Life is Good sitting just on the outside. He'll push the button on the turn. I think Life is Good is going to win by 4 and put on a performance. I really wish, gentlemen, there was an interesting closer in this race. You could say it's Silver State, but Pete, I'll throw this to you. Silver State's been I do have Silver State in second, but really it's by default because he looks like he's the only decent closer. That's the only reason why I have Silver State. I've been wrong about this horse all year, Pete. But I think he's found some pretty soft grade 1 fields and some pretty soft trips too.
Yeah, I agree. But I think like you said, though, if you're looking for someone to come off the pace, if things do heat up, he's the best one. And I mean, in some races, that's all you can really look for. And it's not like he's not talented. It's not like he hasn't beat good horses. I mean, even that last race, he looked beautiful coming down the lane until he just got goofy and and let mind control come back at him. But he looked so good just sweeping around the outside. And if things do get hot up front, I mean, I guess the only negative is Santana's like for his last 1,000. But other than that, then I feel like Silver State is he. When I looked at the race, like I said, I went into it thinking Life is Good is a guaranteed single, no questions asked. And then you start looking at it, and I thought Silver State could potentially beat him. I mean, if you look at Life is Good, his 2 races at a mile are probably his, he's got a 101 and a 99 buyer, not exactly world beating. Obviously, his last one, he coasted. But still, it's Silver State, Ginobili, just look like they have numbers that could maybe compete. And if you get him softened up a bit, it wouldn't shock me in the least. But it also wouldn't shock me if he wins by 8. So it's one of those where you got to pick your poison.
Faya is joining the show. Faya, I agree with you. We're going to move on. We've talked enough about this race. Brian, I wish you luck with 8 rings because that would blow up a lot of things. But, folks, I think Life is Good. Not only is going to win this race, guys, I think this horse is a serious player anywhere in the world next year, including Saudi Arabia, Dubai, I don't send him to Ascot. And I'm just kidding. I don't care where he runs. I think Life is Good. I hope he stays healthy. And if Flightline stays healthy, guys, and Jackie's Warrior stays healthy, and if, like, say, 2 or at least, if all of them or at least 2 of them go to the Malibu at Santa Anita, that's going to be like another Charlatan versus like Nashville, but even better, I think. So
he could be a complete freak. It's a 3-year-old taking on older. I've been watching his workouts on XBTVs. He seems to pull at the bit a little bit. He seems a little bit rank, and maybe he's just so good that he doesn't have to rate. But I don't know if he wants to rate. I mean, he opened up 2 lengths on Jackie's Warrior, and that's saying something. So in the workouts, he reminds me of Always Dreaming. I know he went on to win the Kentucky Derby. But if he's going 44, 45 in this race, that could be tough to hold off some of these in here.
It's going to be fascinating to watch. Let's go ahead and move on to the next race, guys. This is the Breeders' Cup Sprint. You have another big, heavy favorite in this race in Jackie's Warrior from the 2-hole, which might be a little bit tricky. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and go first. Let me go ahead and switch to the Sprint here.
Hey, Howard, you skipped the Philly and Mare Turf, by the way.
Oh, was that the next race? Did I screw that up? I apologize. Philly and Mare Turf is next. Yes, it is. Okay. How did I do that?
I only knew because I had it in front of me. Otherwise, I would have been going
you're
backwards.
Exactly right. You're exactly right. Actually, the picks are going to be on the bottom of the screen. Sorry, guys. Let me take this off the screen. Now I'm a little... Philly and Mare Turf. I got to find it on my... So, I'll go ahead and... Brian, I'll let you talk first about the Philly and Mare Turf. I'm trying to find my notes here. Now I can't find them for some reason. There it is. Sorry. My bad. Yep. All right. I'm going to go ahead and talk first. Let me just get this up on the screen here to show the field for everyone. Again, apologize. There we go. It's been a long week. Okay. Philly and Mare Turf. Thanks, Pete. Okay. You see our picks on the bottom. I'll get Brian's picks up there in just a second. Guys, I'm going to go first if you don't mind. I'm going to take a stand in this race. This is a huge field, but there's a lot of horses I do not like that actually look like they might take some money. Love's Only You. This is going to be a love fest, by the way, in my opinion, this race, guys, because you got Love for Aidan O'Brien. You got Love's Only You coming in from Japan. Love's Only You, folks, is a serious horse. We talked about him on episode 90. I'm going to go and let me show the PPs as you guys see the field there. Love's Only You, as I go ahead and bring up the PPs, raced in Dubai against one of my sons, my son Mishref, who won for me at 18-1. Let me go ahead and okay, there we go. Mishref won at 18-1 in the Saudi Cup. He's been a superstar all year. I wish he was going to be here. I was going to give him a peppermint or something, but he's not coming to the race. Love's Only You, and we're not going to watch too many replays tonight, is the 8 horse. Sorry, guys. There we go. Love's Only You finished not very far back off of Mishref, just a half length, and almost it was right there with Chronogenesis, a very nice horse also from Asia. Then won it at Sha Tin. She can go left-handed, right-handed. Took a little bit of a break. Finished second in a grade 2, and now has a little bit of break again. That is my only concern, guys. My only concern with this horse is that she was off for a few months and then off for a few months again. But they've been pointing this horse to this race all year long. I'm going to trust the connections. She's got a great turn of foot. She's not like a dead closer. I'm hoping she'll be somewhat mid-pack. And listen, any of these horses, there's not one horse in this race, not one, that would be even sniffing Mishriff only a half length back, in my opinion. Not even close. So I'm not just going off of one race, but this is a world, a globetrotter who's very good. The jockey, I believe, has actually ridden in California before at San Anita. I could be wrong about that. Love is Only You is my top pick. My second choice is Love for Aiden O'Brien, the 6 horse, who is a little more tactical, I think, than Love's Only You. Here's my problem with Love, though, guys, and why I didn't put her on top. She was going to race at Ascot. The ground was soft, and I believe she had a temperature as well. Then she was going to race in another race. I think it was on British Champions Day a few weeks ago, and her blood work didn't come back great. She's missed 2 races. Really, she's missed 1 race, but she wasn't healthy in either one of them. I'm a little bit dubious, and I'm even more dubious by the fact that she should have not lost the last race. It was a grade 2. She gave it up. Now, she was carrying 137, guys, which is crazy. But I think Love is going to take a ton of money. I'm slightly against Love. She can absolutely win the race. As I put up, Brian, I'll let you go next with your picks as I go ahead and put them up in the Filly and Mare Turf.
Well, good. Well, we'll go directly against one another, and I'm not going to be bashful about it. My Breeders' Cup is going to go right through Warlike Goddess. I'll be out of the tournament if this horse loses.
Wow.
I love this horse, and usually I try to fancy Euros. I know I'm up against it from a class standpoint. I get the horse is not as classy and as tested as some of the others, but the way this horse is visually won, I throw out times. Time only matters in prison a lot of times. The way this horse has done it has been push button and really ran by some good horses like My Sister Nat, like they were tied to a post, despite having some troubled trips the last time. I do get my least favorite rider, probably in the world, in Julien Leparoux.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel, Brian?
I've never had success with him.
Is he riding at Canterbury anytime soon? You can talk to him personally.
Unlikely to be riding at Canterbury, but he's a rider that's been my kryptonite. I lose to him and I lose with him. But on Saturday, that will change with Warlike Goddess. I think the filly's tactical enough. I mean, she's 6 for 7. She could potentially be overlooked in this spot. I'm not sure about the 7-2 morning line. I just love the way she's won. She looks like she wants to go this far. I respect, what the Japanese horses have done. Aiden O'Brien typically gets overbet in this spot. They're a lot more classy. There's no doubt about it. But Warlike Goddess, similar to Hidden Connection and Raylu's horse, I don't think they've really gotten to the bottom of this horse. She's getting better with each and every start. She's got a turn of foot after 11 furlongs that not many horses can go with. If we get some pace to chase, I think Warlike Goddess at 4-1 or 9-2 is going to be a BC difference maker for me.
Wow. Well, Brian, in a small way, I'm happy about that because assuming that we both still have some kind of bankroll up to that point, one of us will be successful, I would think, because either your horse is going to win or I think one of my 2 are going to win. I'll just chime in before Pete. I'll let you talk. I love the horse. I don't want anyone to get any wrong impression, but I'm just not sure she classes up. And Brian just said it flat out, guys. But her turn of foot has been fantastic. I have no negatives with this horse at all. None. Other than when a push comes to shove, you're talking about, Love's Only You and other Euros we haven't talked about versus, Warlike Goddess in a closing kind of situation. I think, Brian, that she's been closing against horses that are much superior. We're going to find out. You could be absolutely right. I could be absolutely wrong. She's going to have to prove it to me. But it's going to be fascinating to see. Pete, you have Love on top, and you have another Euro who is a returning champion we haven't even talked about yet in second.
Yeah, although I'm not super confident. I actually agree with Brian a little bit where I think Warlike Goddess, who is sort of classing up, but it's classing up against horses who maybe aren't as good. Maybe they're more reputation in some respects this year than they are in terms of performance. So I had trouble with this. I went with Love because I just always have liked this horse. I've had it a few times. If you go back, I think her best race wins this race. It's just the point that she hasn't been running her best race. And like you said, some of it's been training issues, health issues. But I feel like if she can get back to it, and it always sounded like they wanted to get her on a nice firm course. And when she beat Daria back, it was a little bit more of a firm course. I feel like maybe this Del Mar course will suit her. And if she can run back to her past figures and to her past form, then I think she can beat this field. But I'm not sitting here saying I'm 100% confident in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and by the way, Love is going to get first run. I'm almost
I think
sure.
so. She's very tactical.
That's a big advantage of Del Mar, isn't it, Pete?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, if you watch her, she's actually on the lead sometimes, but she's always very tactical. So she always gets herself in position. Now, whether she can kick, but I mean, you look back and she didn't kick and win, but she was going against Mishrif and then ADR 3 back. So, I mean, it's not like she's trying to close into some cupcakes there. And now you're putting her back against, other fillies and mares. And I think she will get a good run. I think there's enough speed to necessarily get people to come from behind. So
who is the speed, Pete? Because Jake would like to know. What do you think?
I thought, let me look while go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, doesn't it feel like Love is dodging Tarnawa and Tiona later on? I mean, they run for $2 million instead of $4 million. I know $2 million is nothing to sneeze at, but they could have easily gone, in the mile-and-a-half race in race number 11. And so they opt for this race. I think Love could be favored in here. I wanted to give you some time to try and find the horse you believe is going to be on the front. But I do think, Love could have gone for Aidan O'Brien in race number 11 for double the purse.
No, I agree. I actually thought she was, and I actually was looking at her as a price in the turf potentially, again, if she ran up to her capabilities. You know what, now that I'm looking at it, I don't know if there's speed that you can rely on is the problem. I feel like there's – you have to hope that someone goes out. But again,
well, I mean, the speed of the race is going to Vegas.
Vegas, who I was going to get to her, but go ahead.
Well, listen, if this horse wins, I might actually leave the track because, listen, I am so sick of horses walking on the lead in big turf races in this country. This horse doesn't even come close to classing up. But, guys, she's going to be a huge price. And she's going to have the lead. I'd be shocked if Rispoli doesn't just send out there. And I can see them walking. The problem is I think Love is going to be right off of that horse. And Love is just much better than going to Vegas. Real quick, again, we need to move on to the show. I'm going to talk about my third place horse because Davy Lane has put in a comment. Davy, what are you doing up, Davy? Davy Lane has put a comment in. Thanks, Davy, for watching. It's like 2 a.m. in Europe. I'm going to put Davy's comment up in a minute. Talk very quickly, Pete, about Adira, and then I'll talk about a sneaky long shot. We'll move on.
I mean, Adaria, I think, is just another one who I think didn't love the heavy ground last time, and you get this one on firmer turf, and she does her best running. We saw that last year. We saw that in the Prince of Wales where she ran a good race against Love. So this is just one that, again, she's classy, and she might just be much classier than the rest of the field. And that could be enough sometimes to beat a field that came up a little bit light in terms of class and aside from like Warlike Goddess, even form in some ways. So I think she just has the back class. She has the ability and should take to the course to win. Can I just say one thing real quick on going to Vegas as someone who does my racehorse? I have shares of going to Vegas. So if she walks it on the front end, I have somebody to root for. So I'll just, hitting that first turn off the start where she'll have the advantage from the one hole.
There's two things I don't like about Adira, guys, and then I want to talk about one horse and move on. Actually, 3 things. Number 1, she's going to take money. Number 2, this is a pretty short run in the first turn. People have to realize that this is a 1 3/8. It's a short run. I don't know how she's not going to be wide. Now, she is the closer. They could just take all the way back. But she's not going to be on the right. She's not going to be saving ground on the first turn. And number 3, and this is probably the biggest one, I don't think she wants extra distance. She won last year going a 1 3/16, guys, at Keeneland. This is another furlong and a half. I don't think distance is Adira's friend. All those things add up to me not using her at all. If she wins, I'm probably going to lose. Last horse I want to talk about very briefly. I want to shout out to my friend Davy Lane for this horse. I'm not going to talk too long. Again, we talked about this horse, Queen Supreme, with Davy Lane. I'm going to go ahead and put his comment up here, right there. Guys, watch episode 90. Davey had a 60, that's right, 60 to 1 shot on our show at Royal Ascot named Ray Shoon back in June. And Davey doesn't just throw out like bombs just because. He gave me like 4 or 5 reasons why he thinks Queen Supreme is interesting. I'm not going to get into this horse. You can watch the show. But the horse has been training very well, likes the distance. Davey loves this horse for a lot of reasons. Watch the show. Maybe hit a huge bomb underneath. Davey's got one more comment there. Okay, he's just watching all over the place. Listen, he was betting the Melbourne Cup. Davey's a great guy. All right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and move on to the next race. And by the way, folks, we might take a little short break, a little halftime possibly. Gentlemen, if you need a break, let me know. It would be literally about a 1 or 2 minute break if necessary. Brian, did we about to say something?
I just love to know Davey Lane's opinion on how Gary Barber came to own the Ireland bred who's been running in South Africa. That's an interesting story, I'm sure.
Gary Barber's from South Africa.
Okay.
So that's the connection. Davey, you'd have to listen to the show. I think he got into a little bit. He talked about it. But Gary Barber, who a lot of people know, he is a South African. That's why the horse, so he's got South African connections. I can tell you that. I don't have the deep dive, Brian. I'm not going to make stuff up. But again, watch this show and you'll find out. All right, let's go ahead and move on, guys. And by the way, someone threw me some shade. Howard, stop making mistake, or you made a mistake on this way, guys. I've got 4 screens. I've got, I'm clicking all over the place. So give me a break, guys. Show me some love. All right, next race. This is the sprint that we're gonna watch. So let me take this ticker off the screen. Here comes the sprint ticker. I'm going to take this off the screen, the PPs, and we will show the sprint field. And I'm going to let Brian go first in this race with his picks, and I'll put them on the screen. Brian, we got the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I love this race every year. You got some of the fastest horses in the world. I wouldn't say it's the best field we've seen in years here, but there is a horse in Jackie's Warrior that I've loved since day one. He actually helped me get on the Matt Bernier show last year, and I won't say become famous, but I picked Jackie's Warrior in a contest. I think Pete remembers that probably because it was the first time I was on Matt Bernier's show. This horse is just super freaky good.
Yeah, I mean, things have come full circle for me in my, betting points on Jackie's Warrior. Last year in the BC Juvenile, this was my strongest play against the whole weekend. I didn't think the horse wanted anything to do with the distance, the deep ground at Keeneland, and now a year later, my most likely winner on the whole weekend. This will be,
isn't it a beautiful thing? I love horse racing.
Last year, I just hated the horse. That even money wasn't going to be on any of my tickets. This year, it's going to be on a single on almost all my tickets. It's not, sexy or anything like that. I just think Jackie's Warrior gets to the distance. I watched Steve Asmussen interviews on XBTV just glowing about this horse, raving, and basically admitting that he was wrong about this horse. And it's amazing to him that it took this long to get the third race at 6 furlongs because no one can go with this horse. I think the race came up light. The only thing I will say is that this race has only been won by the favorite 3 races out of the last 20 times it's been run. So I think Jackie's Warrior can overcome that, but the numbers do say that this race does have a tendency to fall apart in the past. I just don't see it happening this time.
You've got CZ Rocket, a wily veteran, to close in for second. You've got Following C from the rail. So you like the insight overall here, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, if the race falls apart, I think they go awfully quick, and maybe CZ Rocket picks up a piece. Peter Miller has knocked me out of numerous Breeders' Cup. He's got the good oats and hay, floats the teeth well. So I think CZ Rocket could pick up a piece for a trainer who wins on racing's biggest days.
Jimmy, thanks for watching the show. Jimmy agrees with you, Brian. Faya, I'm going to show your comment a little bit. Pete, you have also Jackie's Warrior, but we both have the same one too. There is the race we were talking about. We don't need to probably expound the virtues of Jackie's Warrior. Let's talk about Aloha West a little bit. And Faya, yes, Aloha West in raging form. I've got a Aloha West story I want to share, Pete, after you talk about this horse.
No, I mean, I just think I was looking for it similar to what Brian was talking about. I mean, I think Jackie's Warrior sort of potentially can run away with this. So I was just looking for someone who can maybe get into second and play a nice, decent exacta at a price. And I mean, this horse is improving, at least with this one. We don't necessarily know what he's going to be yet. He's still improving, whereas some of these other ones are sort of the old war veterans like CZ Rocket, which you sort of know who they are. So he's been hot. He's, he closes into, if we can get some speed up front, like if any of these other horses try and go with Jackie's Warrior, they're going to fall apart. So somebody's going to be able to come from the back. And I felt like Aloha West has a good chance to do that. And actually, I like Brian's choice too. I like CZ Rocket and Aloha West to maybe clunk it up and just, bomb like a nice straight trifecta or something.
Guys, I'm not afraid to say it. I know there's literally millions of people watch this podcast, but no, we have a great following. We've had, by the way, the last few videos, we've had over 1,000 people with our Breeders' Cup videos. The response has been tremendous. I really want to thank everyone out there for responding to the HHH Racing podcast. Brian, I'm not afraid to tell you or anyone. I'm playing a big exacta, Jackie's Warrior over Aloha West on Saturday, and I'm actually going to go the other way just a little bit, because Aloha West to me is the best closer in the race. CZ Rocket is more proven, I suppose, but I think his best days are behind him. Aloha West did not break great at Keeneland. I was there. Let me tell the story very quickly. I was at Keeneland that weekend, and here's this is just I think you guys are gonna love this story. This is absolutely true. I'm sitting. I happened to luck out and get some box seats. Shout out to Sean Tugel, who works at Gainesway Farm. After I saw Tappet in person, guys, and a Fleet Alex in person, it was crazy. We went to the races. We were sitting in the Gainesway box. This race comes up, and all of a sudden I look to my left, and there's Wayne Catalano sitting literally just for this race. He was only there for this race, literally like 5 feet from me. I introduced myself, blah, blah, blah. I'll get a long story short. Now, if you know what happened to the Phoenix, you might know what this story is going to be about. I wished him luck. I said, are you going to the Breeders' Cup? He said, most likely if you run well, first or second, blah, blah, blah. We're watching the race. He's dead silent. I'm dead silent. I'm with a friend. Like, I don't want to piss off Wayne Catalano, who trains Aloha West, right? The race ends. I'm not going to show the replay. Aloha West, brutal beat. Lost by like this much. Just couldn't quite get there. Wayne Catalano rolls up the program. He had the program rolled up, right? Slammed, like absolutely slammed the program against like the rail that separated the two boxes. Scared the crap out of me. He didn't say anything though, and absolutely just stormed out of the box and went downstairs. And I looked at my friend Jerry. I'm like, what a brutal way to lose a Breeders' Cup qualifying race. But listen, if he breaks, he's the best closer in the race. If it falls apart, I wouldn't be shocked if he won. Here's the issue, guys. Last question before we move on. Brian, I'll pose this to you. Following C's got to go, right? Matera Sky is a very fast horse. He's not as good as he used to be, but he's fast early. Lexingtonian, when he's good, he's fast early. Special Reserve can't be that far back. Is it possible? I know you've got all your money going through Jackie's Warrior, and I don't blame you. Is it possible that Jackie's Warrior gets caught up like in between horses in a speed duel?
Sure. I mean, I think it is. I don't think the horse had issues being caught up in between horses in the past or in tight. I mean, it is possible. Johnny B doesn't strike me as a guy who's really going to be shoving down on the inside. I do think that's a really not a great post position for following the C. That could have been a contender on the outside, I think. But for me, I'll be singling this horse on pick fives, but vertically, I'm not going to try and recreate the wheel by doing any big exactas or trifectas. If I like a horse at 2 to 5 or 3 to 5, I'll wait for better value for me. So I'll single on the pick five and probably not going to dive into this race from a vertical standpoint.
Yeah, there is a little Dr. Shivel love who I haven't talked about. Again, guys, we can talk forever about a lot of these horses. I'll just put my 2 cents before we move on. That last race, a rain broke. He rushed up the inside only because of that. I just don't like the California sprint horses this year, guys. So I know a lot of people like Dr. Shivel. I think it's pronounced. He's a 3-year-old. He has a nice outside post. I don't think he classes up. Just plain and simple. That's my opinion. None of us. Pete, you've got Dr. Shivel in third. But really, anything you want to add, Pete, as I switch the
No. Yeah, I think you said it all there.
All right.
mean, I don't know if he's a threat to the win.
Let's go ahead and move on, gentlemen. We're doing great with time. One of my favorite races, and Pete, I'm going to let you go first. Go ahead and switch the screen there to the mile. Again, you see our picks on the bottom. And again, I'll put Brian's picks on in a minute. I only have 2 hands, guys. So we'll get Brian's picks up in a minute. Pete, one of my favorite races every year because I love the turn of foot that the Euros usually show. This is a full 14 horses going a mile at Del Mar. This is going to be a throwdown war. You have on top one of the California, one of the local hopes, Mo Forza, who is a very nice closer.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of just like the way he runs. I think he runs the right race to win this, and with Pratt aboard, hopefully he'll be able to work out the right trip. And as much as I like some of the Europeans, I don't think it's the strongest crew we've ever seen. Obviously, if maybe the 3 best milers in Europe didn't come, so potentially we could have had a much stronger field. So just the fact that it maybe came up a touch light, even though I know Charlie Appleby loves Space Blues, but if it did come up a touch light, maybe we can get another U.S. win, and Mo Forza should be able to get a trip not too far outside. Pratt's great. Mo Forza loves the course, is experienced on the course, and I just think runs the right race, the race style to win this race.
Talk about the 2, and I've got a surprise for you guys, by the way. I'll bring it up in just a second. I'm working on it. Talk about the 2 Charles Appleby horses, Pete. You got Master of the Seas, who, by the way, if you look at the screen, folks, we all love these 2. This is a big field, and we're thinking very similar. We love the Charles Appleby horses here. Pete, tell me about Space Blues and Master of the Seas. Brian, I'll let you chime in after. And then I've got a short video to show you guys.
Master of the Seas, I just sort of liked. I like his turn of foot, and I mean, in watching the replays, if you throw out the last one, which I just think he didn't run, the ground was really soft. Yeah. I went back to I think 4 back in the Craven, and I just thought that was a really impressive race. And then you see the next one where he runs at Poetic Flair, who's awesome, and then even 2 back. Just I thought he still shows a good foot, and he runs again. He's another one who runs the right race. He quickens. He's fast, and Appleby is on fire every time he brings horses over here. And it seems like a lot of people think this horse was sort of used that Queen Elizabeth to sort of point to this as sort of a prep to say, okay, we're gonna run in that just to keep him fit. And then this is the race that we're shooting for. And Charles Appleby seems to know what he's doing these days. So I just feel like
2 back again. Ben Battle's a nice horse.
Ben Battle's nice too. Yeah.
And he did have a little sneaky trouble in that race too, which I'm not going to show. And then Space Blues will probably be the favorite though, correct?
I think he'll be the favorite, and he is just a monster closer. I mean, he could run from anywhere, and talk about turn of foot, he just explodes in the lane, and he's one of those that could wind up just running away with this race because, again, I do think class-wise it maybe isn't the strongest we've ever had, and I think watching that horse and from the interviews, Charlie Appleby seems to sound like he really loves that horse and couldn't wait to bring him over for this. And I mean, every replay I watched, I was just amazed because a couple of them, he just looks like he's completely out of it and then just explodes late to win. So anybody who has a turn of foot like that is going to have a good chance in a race like this.
Guys, I got some camera issues. That's okay. We can keep. I know I'm blurry right now. We've got a little snowstorm here in early November here in the Chicago area. Brian, you have the 2 Applebys on top. Anything else you want to add to that as I try to fix my camera here?
Yeah, I mean, the Applebee's on top. Nothing too creative in here. I will say years past I've had a tendency to fall in love with the Europeans in this race, and whether it's a bad trip or whatnot, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But there's not a lot of value on a horse like Space Blues. I do think he's your most likely winner. He's going to be heavily bet. I think he might be below 2-1 in here. The only question a lot of people are talking about is the distance. I think that's a non-issue. People forget that this horse debuted winning at 1.70 miles. Then off a long layoff, they tried 1.25 miles. He's turned into, a hell of a sprinter recently, but he's got that turn of foot. Last race, it was a complete bog on a wet turf. He stopped the clock in 1:22 going 7 furlongs. I will say at the Del Mar turf course, the rail is going to be set at 0. I know the rail's out at 10 or 20 today, but the rail will be at 0. And this race has been won by horses coming from off the pace that do linger near the back. So speed doesn't necessarily always hold in this particular race. And I think Space Blues gets a great trip. I don't really know what the plan was with Master of Seas. I think Pete touched on it, that they weren't fully cranked for the Queen Elizabeth. But I just don't understand, getting a race October 16th, and then you have to ship across the country to come against the world's best. I didn't know what to make of that. I know William Buick had his choice for the Appleby horses, and he obviously stuck with Space Blues. I'm going to use Space Blues. I'm going to use a lot of the Euros, and then just Chad Brown and Peter Miller. Nothing crazy.
Guys, let's hear what Charles Appleby has to say. Let's hear from the man himself. This is Charles Appleby talking about, just about a minute, folks, talking about his two contenders in the miles, Space Blues and Master of the Seas.
Come to thinking, Master of the Seas will be a similar type of ride. If he was coming here after his Guineas run, he'd be right in the mix. The problem is we know a little bit more about him now, and we're not absolutely sure how good he is. Is that fair?
Yeah, look, as we know, after the Guineas, he won the Craven, and then he went and finished second in the Guineas, both on quick ground. Unfortunately, we met with a setback after the Guineas. Had the summer off there. I was pleased with his comeback there in the Joel, and toyed on whether to give him another run or come straight here on the back of it, because we were purposely working back from a Breeders' Cup Mile with him. But he showed his wellness after the Joel, and so therefore I just wanted to give him one more run there. So he went to Champions Day in the QE2 there, and travelled, but the ground was too soft for him. He was never going to do anything. Once William, he just said, as soon as I let his head down, he just sunk. So, but most importantly, he got another run under him. On Saturday, like I say, he's got a nice draw. They're going to go, hopefully going to go hard, and that will suit him. If he brings back that Guineas form, well, of course, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he'll take all the beating for me. An exciting horse that I think is sort of is going to come in under the radar slightly.
The Breeders' Cup Turf is really just shows the power of Appleby, I feel. Sheikh Mohammed, when he's thinking about Christmas presents, he'll be thinking...
Okay, so now he was talking about, I don't think we heard about Space Blues, guys, but, I mean, he loves Master of the Seas. To me, I mean, if he could just get the right trip. By the way, let me take this off. Guys, I don't know what's going on with my camera. I greatly apologize, but I'm going to take my...
That's why people are tuning in, to see him on camera. The sex appeal.
If I do that, my audio is actually removed. I just see. So, all right, we're live, folks. When I don't have time to mess around with this.
Everybody knows how good looking you are. They don't need to see it. They don't need to see it.
This is actually better.
Yeah.
Anyway, he likes Master of the Seas. If this horse can handle the turf, which he should, he's got a shot. I had Sophie Doyle on last night, guys, and I told Sophie Doyle to tell her younger brother James Doyle, who's riding Master of the Seas, jokingly, of course, but this horse can't be too far back. Guys, there's an unusual amount of lack of early speed in this race. So I don't think this can be won by a dead closer, Brian. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right. Potentially, I think the turn of foot is a big difference. And I think a lot of times, the jockeys, like, Ray Lou said, they're reading the racing form too. So sometimes those races that look paceless, they go a little bit faster than you'd think. And sometimes when it looks like there's a ton of pace, especially out in New York, it turns out there's no pace.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We've seen so many different things happening. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and move on. Again, I apologize to everyone for the camera. I don't have time to mess around with it right now. We're just going to keep talking. It's probably the best I've looked all week, actually. So we're just going to – Pete and Brian look fantastic. I know everyone can hear me just fine.
Relative.
So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next race, guys. You guys are good right now? We take a little break? Are we good?
No, we're good.
Oh, we're good. All right, we got a few more races left here, folks. Boy, am I looking forward to this race. This next race is the distaff that I'm going to bring up right now on screen here. Pete, I'm going to let you talk first about the distaff as I go ahead and bring up the field here. What a fantastic race this is going to be. You've got another big favorite here, Latruska, who I know Brian, is leaning on Warlike Goddess in the contest that we're playing in. I'm actually have a lean in this race also, but it's not about a specific horse. It's more about a concept. Let me go ahead and switch the screen. Pete, as I switch the banners, who do you got here?
I landed on Malathat just because I felt like and some of this is word of mouth from what I'm hearing, that she looks fantastic. She's fit. She's ready to run. You know, the 3-year-old who's now late in the year and improving. And I feel like there's enough speed. Obviously, the Truska is the best speed, and she's going to be hard to beat. But, you know, you got a Baffert speed horse on the inside who, if nothing else, you know, Baffert's horse is going to run. So I don't think that horse has any other method than just going out and trying to run as fast as she possibly can. Horologist has speed. She Dares the Devil has speed. So I think there's enough speed to where they can all soften each other up. And then when I was looking at it, I was trying to land on a closer, and it was between Malathat and Royal Flag. And I just think Malathat is a touch more talented, and potentially has enough of a late kick to overtake Royal Flag. And actually, I would love it to be 3-2 and get the rest of them out of there.
If you guys see the picks on the bottom, Pete and I see this race so similar. I'm going to go and let Mr. Arrigoni talk. I think he has a similar idea in terms of a closer. A horse that I know, Brian, because I've talked to him personally and I've heard him on different shows. Matt Bernier, a friend of the show, a friend of mine who I'm going to see out in Del Mar tomorrow as I fly out there, loves Clarier. What do you like about this horse?
Yeah, I mean, Fairness and Wagering Act. One of my favorite horses is Latruska, so it was painful for me to pick against this horse. Latruska was a single for me back in 2019 in the Classico Caribbean at Gulfstream Park when the horse brought an undefeated record in on one of those degenerate days playing Gulfstream in the winter. So Latruska's had an amazing career, but I pay attention to things that a lot of people don't pay any attention to, and that's workouts and gallop outs. Latruska's a gamer, but this week everyone's seen it. They've talked about it. The unknown horse kind of came up on the outside, and Latruska really had no response. So I love Latruska. She's one of my favorite horses, but she's going to be tested in here. And I know post number 6 is not bad, but she's got Horologist right on the outside. She Dares the Devil further out, and then you've got the Bob Baffert on the inside. So they're going to be cooking up front. I do believe Malathat is probably going to be somewhere around 3-1 or 5-2 in this spot. Todd Bletcher, J.R. Velasquez. I think Clariere, I've got one of the coldest trainers in Steve Asmussen, who's going to get a win with Jackie's Warrior. And then Ricardo Santana is going to bring one home for his buddy who lost his life this week. So Clariere, I think she's been working out like a complete freak. The workouts are there. She went up against Max Player and really just put that one to bed. Max Player was under a drive and under the whip and couldn't get anywhere near Clariere. I think this horse has been inching ever so closely in the Kentucky Oaks. Malathat was clearly the better horse. I think Clariere getting better with age and could run a big race in a great setup.
Clariere has to improve, I would say. I'll just throw a number. I think she's got to improve 2 to 3, 4 lengths, somewhere around 3 lengths, but she could. And Brian, I know it's the workouts too. That's what, I like the fact that Clariere seems to be figuring out the game. They tried to put her, I thought she was a little disappointing, frankly, since the spring. When I saw her at the fairgrounds, I thought she could be any kind. And she's had, I guess you could argue, a little bit of a disappointing year. But I like the direction she's going. I like the pace flow. She just has to improve, I do think. But what I'm really interested in, not only that you and Matt like her, Matt Bernier, but she has been, like you said, outworking Max Player. I noticed that. Max Player is a nice horse. I mean, yes, it's the morning. She's got to do it in the afternoon. I get all that. Clariere might be the one you want. Here's my strong opinion, guys. I do not like Latruska at all here. Not at all. If Latruska wins this race, I'm going to lose a lot of money in the BCBC. I might be out of the pick 5. I'm going to use her very, very, very defensively. Those of you that receive my blog, I talked about 2 paragraphs on why. I don't want to expound too much tonight because we have other races to cover. I'm just going to say that Private Mission has to go from the inside, in my opinion, for Baffert. Horologist is a speed horse, not as fast as Latruska, but Horologist does her best running up front. She Dares the Devil has to be used a little bit. Here's the wild card, guys. As time goes by for Baffert, I think Baffert is going to send this horse crazy. I think he's going to let Private Mission, in the pocket, and I think the directions for Saez is to go after Latruska. I do not have inside intel on that. It's just a gut feeling. So because Baffert's very capable of team tactics, and as time goes by, is probably the best speed on the outside. So anyway, my opinion here is I love closing this race. I hear everything that Pete is saying about Malathot versus Royal Flag. I'm going to go with Royal Flag because I think she's a little more experienced. And I don't like the layoff with Malathot, Pete. I know this was planned for Malathot. I know it's Todd Pletcher, and that might be a ridiculous statement, but I don't like the fact if she wins this race, she'll have the biggest layoff winner of any horse in the history of this race. I wish she had a prep. Malathot's good, but I like Chad Brown and Joel Rosario and Royal Flag. You're going to get twice the price, if not 3 times the price, as Malathot. So my big opinion here, guys, is I hate Lutruska. I think there's a lot of speed. And I'm playing like all closer exactas. I'm going to play big tries with like all closers on top. And if Latruska wins, she wins. I'll be wrong. Just like Brian says, it's gambling, and we'll move on. All right, let's go ahead and speaking of move on, we've got 2 races left. You could make the argument the 2 best, the biggest races of the weekend. Although I think, guys, the Distaff is going to be one of my favorite races, no matter what happens, of the entire weekend. Can you imagine, by the way, if Monomoy Girl was also in this race? I mean, it would be the Distaff of the Breeders' Cup for the last 36 years. I still think it's a great race. Gentlemen, Brian, we're going to have you go first in the next race. The next race is the Turf. And again, there's always great Euros in this race versus great horses from the United States. Although, in my opinion, there's only one good horse in the United States. As I go ahead and make some switches on the screen, talk about your top choices here in the Turf.
I mean, I think he goes through the Euros, but with that said, not great post positions for the Europeans by any means. I know it's 1.5 miles, but that turn comes up awfully quick. So the 12 and 13 posts are going to have to play their cards early in this race. Tiona's kind of the unknown in here, a horse who's all or nothing. This horse either performs a ton of talent or really doesn't run a step. Not a great horse you want to use underneath. Tarnawa has had a little bit of tough racing luck the last 2 times, but at a horse 7-5, breaking from post number 13, that's a lot to ask. Tarnawa, strictly the horse to beat, was dominant last year. I'm going to try Tiona in here. I do think it would have been interesting to see what the odds would have been had Domestic Spending won at Arlington Park, got beat that day, and unfortunately not only got beat, but 2 Emmys came back to run not great at. Didn't run poorly at Keeneland, but didn't win.
He was disappointing. Let's just flat out say it.
Yeah. He was disappointing. So Domestic Spending gets beat at 2-5, goes on the shelf. Chad Brown, who does work him consistently, comes back with 8 workouts for Domestic Spending. That's a horse I just do not know what to do with. I'll probably follow the board on that one. I think the 12 and 13, they could be hindered by their post positions, but they look to be the talent of this field.
It's interesting that you look at the picks on the bottom of the screen. So I'm still trying to fix my camera. Anyway, Brian and Pete, you guys have the same 3, which is interesting. Brian, you have Domestic Spending in 3rd. Pete, you've got Domestic Spending on top. I got to say, look at my picks, guys. I don't know what to do with this horse. I flat out do not know what to do with Domestic Spending. I love the United States of America, but when it comes to turf races and I got a decision to make, I usually go with Euros. Pete, talk about Domestic Spending.
Well, I thought going into that last race, and by the way, that nose cost me the cross-country pick 5, which I thought was a lock going into it that day. And I had 2 $20 horses in the cross-country pick 5. And,
oh, my God.
And I was like, oh, this is a lock. I got it for sure. And then
that's
that
a $1 bet,
happened.
by the way. Oh, no, that's a 50-cent bet. Sorry.
It was 50, I think it was 50, but either way, it would have paid decent enough. It was good value up front. But
for sure.
I'd like to draw a little bit because, going into that race, Domestic Spending was thought about to be the best horse in the country, potentially, and I thought that, and he's maybe my favorite horse in training right now. But I just think being inside, and he just got lucky that Tarnaw was outside, Tiona's outside, where maybe they can get a rougher trip and be hung wide, and hopefully Pratt, who knows the track, who knows the horse, can work out a trip, save some ground, and then just explode with his late kick, which I still think is there, because there's not going to be, I can't imagine there's going to be a soft pace this time with Tribhuvan and Acclimate up front. I think there's going to be some pace to run into. And if
Pete, I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you want to talk a little bit about what people see on the screen? And you brought it up to me that I brought it up on. So let's talk about it. Look at the last 2 races. Talk about, the red versus the blue and what that means for domestic spending here.
Yeah, I mean, you look 2 back and the pace was the pace was super hot in Tribhuvan, and domestic spending just toyed with them and rolled by them. And then the last one, I mean, look at their crawling. I mean, that, what is it, 116? That's freaking ridiculous how you can let a horse do that. And I was
there in person. I know.
I mean, and it's happened so many times this year. I feel like it's ruined racing, watching these freaking horses that suck sit on the top of these races and just go around the track. And
wait a minute, I just got to call him Hugh Robertson, trainer of 2 Emmys. He's very offended.
I actually like that. I like that. The worst part is I had like a big straight exacta with all the bombs in that race too, except for underneath with domestic spending.
Of course.
Except for 2 Emmys.
Because why would you turn it around?
No, I turned it around, but didn't put 2 Emmys on top. I put the other bombs on top.
My bad.
So, but I just think with the hot pace and his late kick and Pratt not making a mistake, I think he made a mistake in that race flat out, where I think he just underestimated the pace and should have moved earlier, and he would have won that race. But I just like the trip, and I like the fact that Tarnawa's a monster, and none of her races, even though she hasn't been winning, her races are just as good as they were last year. And but hopefully she's a little bit compromised by that post. And like Brian said about Tiona, I really like that horse as well, and that would be on my pick 5 ticket. But she's goofy. She still seems like she's learning how to run, and working a trip from the outside in a big field like this against the best horses she's ever faced. I just don't know what she's going to do. I don't want to leave her off a ticket, but I'm not 100% confident in how she's going to perform in a race like this.
Actually, let me go back to the domestic spending just for a minute, guys. Because when you look at the time now, if you guys look very carefully, I'm going to go, let me go full screen just so that our viewers at home can see what we're talking about here a little better. If you guys look all the way here on the right side of the screen, right next to the name of the jockey. So I'm looking, if you guys look right now, you see this 120, 127, 123. Those are adjusted time form ratings for the American horses, because you don't usually see time form for Americans. So domestic spending is run basically in the 120s, right? If you go to Tarnawa, who is the fastest horse in this race by most people's measure. Whoops, sorry, blew by her. Tarnawa, as you can see here, it's on the left side, is right there, 122, 124. So if you believe in time form and you believe in speed figures, guys, then domestic spending not only fits, but is one of the top 2 horses in this race. So I think that's very interesting to look at. Here's my feeling. Domestic spending can win. I'm absolutely using this horse, by the way. Absolutely using this horse. I am very, 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 very interested in Sisfahan, the 9, who, again, watch episode 90. I talked about this horse quite a bit. I'm just going to mention 2 things, okay? Sisfahan, 2 back, lost to Torquid Ortasso. Who's Torquid Ortasso? Torquid Ortasso won the Arc and beat Tarnawa by 3 lengths. Now, granted, it was very soft, or it was good on Arc Day, and Tarnawa didn't like that. Okay, I get that. The next race that Sisfahan ran, the last start, came in 3rd to Alpinista. Who's Alpinista? Alpinista is a very good Grade 1 horse. So when you see Alpinista there in the PPs, don't think that that's some kind of bum. Not only that, guys, and if we had more time, I'd show you the replay. Sisfahan was stuck on the inside, couldn't find room, angled out late, just, lost by 3, but the gallop out was ridiculous. If there's speed in this race, I think Sisfahan's got a huge shot to close and win. This horse is going to love the distance. Only a 3-year-old is improving. I could go on and on. I really like Sisfahan. Tarnawa is the best horse in this race. If the Arc didn't take too much out of her, she's got a shot to win. Brian, you mentioned about the gate. Going a mile and a half, FYI, everyone. The gate is further back on the backstretch. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a short run. I wouldn't say it's a long run. But Tarnow is a closer, so I think the post is a little bit overrated in this race for Tarnow as opposed to some of the other races. Just wanted to throw that out there. The other horse I've got is Walton Street as we go ahead and move on. Walton Street also is very good. I think he's more of a plotter type, though. He doesn't really have a turn of foot. He ran very well all year long. Freaked in the Canadian at Woodbine, although it was a very weak field. If this race was at like Arlington or Belmont or a longer like stretch, I like Walton Street a lot more. I don't think the track suits Walton Street, but he's probably going to be sitting right off of the speeds and will probably get first run. All right, guys, there's my 2 cents there. Let's go on to the last race. We're coming at 8:45. Brian Arrigoni and Pete Visco, I really appreciate you guys staying on this long. All the people that are watching, we have a ton of people watching the show tonight. All you viewers, thank you so much. Please keep putting in the chat. I'm going to put like 7 or 8 minutes on the Classic because everyone knows about the Classic. It's been talked about ad nauseum, on every podcast, on every show, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go ahead and switch some things here. And Brian, I'm going to let you go ahead and go first on the Classic. It's a field of 9. We all know the main players, and what a matchup between Knicks Go and the 3-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite the race. Usually we're going to have a heavy favorite in here. We might with Knicks Go, but I mean, this is an unbelievable race. It's going to be a rider's race. I don't see any way that Rosario is going to let Medina Spirit or Art Collector get the lead in this race. So I do think Knicks Go, is going to be the pace setter. Essential Quality, going to probably sit off the pace. Just so everyone knows, every time I need Knicks Go, he spits the bit and quits. And every time I play against him and go 5 or 6 deep to try and beat him, he runs like Secretariat. So there's that. And the same with Essential Quality. I've tried to beat Essential Quality the last 3 times. He just continues to wear horses down. He wears them down and just grinds it out. A mile and a quarter, fits him well. At a mile and an eighth, I'd probably play against him. Essential Quality is probably – I just don't know what to do with this race. On top, I'm putting Hot Rod Charlie. And ultimately, this race just makes my head spin. There's so many different directions you could go. I've got the frat boys. It's the only time I'll be cheering for frat brothers to win a race from Brown College. I don't love the story. I don't envy it by any means, but I do think they get first run in a perfect pace setup. This horse has enough tactical speed to sit closely. He's getting better with each and every start. He's been behind Essential Quality. He's not as quick as Knicks Go, but I think Knicks Go, Art Collector, and Medina Spirit go hard enough early that it could set up for Hot Rod Charlie to get a great trip behind. Art Collector's the value in here. There's no doubt about it. Saez hopped off to ride Essential Quality, but Art Collector, this horse hasn't really seen the bottom recently, and he's getting good at a good time, and he's another horse that I don't think he necessarily needs the lead, where Medina Spirit and Knicks Go are going to be setting some honest fractions up top.
Excellent analysis, Brian. Pete, a great race. You've got Essential Quality, who he may not be flashy, he may not be, everyone's choice in this race, but he's been the best 3-year-old all year long. He's going to get the distance, and this could just set up perfectly for him.
He's a champ.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like Brian said, it's a really interesting race, which, because we know Knicks Go is the fastest, most likely, but Art Collector and Medina Spirit don't have a lot of other options but to win. Medina Spirit doesn't pass horses. Art Collector passes garbage, but generally doesn't pass horses either. So if they want to win the race, they're going to have to go. And what Brian said is exactly the way I see it. Hot Rod Charlie and maybe Max Player are sitting just off those 3. They get first run, and then Essential Quality just follows them, and we'll see down the lane if he can grind them down like he normally does. And I have a feeling that he might. He'll love the distance. He's a grinder. He's a winner. He seems to have a nose for the wire. He always finds a way to get there. And I think this race, if the pace sets up, is tailor-made for him and his style. And he can run, if he gets a rougher trip, he can run there. He can run on the outside. He can, he could pretty much do anything you need him to do. And I can't pass up on a horse like that. But I'm one of those, like, I'm a pick 5 player, like you said, Brian, and I know Howard is. And I don't feel like I want to get beat. If Knicks Go wins, I want to win. If Hot Rod Charlie wins, I want to win. If Essential Quality wins, I know that's chalky, but I'm not going into the Classic with maybe some prices up front and losing because Knicks Go winds up wiring the field.
Guys, I went back and forth in this race so many times the last few weeks. I can't even begin to tell you. I agree with Brian. Brian, boy, I am praying. Listen, the chance of us, finishing in the top, 10 or whatever the BCBC is extremely unlikely, only because of the odds, not because either one of us, or especially you, would be capable of doing it. But if we're somehow both like way up there, and we both like go off on Hot Rod Charlie, I think we'll be texting her on the phone or something, cheering for this horse, guys. I love this horse. I've heard a lot of different opinions on Hot Rod Charlie. Here's my only issue, guys. My only issue. His best race has been on the lead. I mean, no one can disagree with that. You look at his numbers. You got a 111 at the Pennsylvania Derby on the lead. He ran a monster race at the Belmont up close. The Haskell, he did come from behind, but he only ran a 102. The Derby, he was in a perfect spot, but he was in behind. If he can find a way to get the job done and finish, he's got a great shot. And I'm almost positive, I don't know for a fact, of course, I'm almost positive, Pete, that he'll be ahead of Essential Quality, in the middle of the backstretch, because I think Hot Rod Charlie is much more tactical than Essential Quality. Does that mean that when push comes to shove, if Knicks Go and Medina Spirit battle each other, does that mean Hot Rod Charlie can outlast Essential Quality, in the final 200 yards? I don't know. But I do know one thing, Pete. I'm pretty confident that Hot Rod Charlie will be ahead of Essential Quality, with 200 yards to go, and then it's just a question of who's better. So I think Hot Rod Charlie sits the trip. I hope he doesn't get shuffled on the inside, Brian. That'd be, a concern for me, because we've seen it before where horses in the Classic, get bounced around the inside and things don't work out well for them. So if Hot Rod Charlie was on the outside, I would even love this horse even more. Brian, how do you feel about the post for Hot Rod Charlie?
I think it's okay. The only thing I'll add in is Del Mar installed this 1.25 mile dirt surface back in 2015. And since then, it's been run 9 times, and 5 of the winners have been on the lead, and the other 4 have either been in second or third. So this is not a race you can make up a ton of ground in, because they usually just keep churning on the lead. I think Hot Rod Charlie could sit in that 3rd spot. I got to imagine the instructions for Brad Cox is going to say, if Knicks Go can go 22, 45 and keep on going, great. But I think Essential Quality may sit off of it a little bit more than people think, expecting Knicks Go to be blazing on the front end, trying to cook Medina Spirit. I saw one of the comments was why the blinkers for Hot Rod Charlie.
Yeah.
That's not a concern for me. He drifted in, got disqualified at Monmouth. He drifted out at Parks. He's had a tendency to lose his way a little bit in front of the grandstand. So I think that's why they put the blinkers on, trying to keep that focus at the end of races. He does have a tendency to either look at horses or shy away from the grandstand the last 2 races. So I think they're trying to correct that, and it's kind of a non-issue for me. He does have to step up in here. There's no doubt about it. Essential Quality and Knicks Go have run the better races, but he could potentially get a great trip.
Though, guys, I mean, I looked at Knicks Go. Listen, we've all seen these horses all year long. And, guys, we're going to end absolutely in 5 minutes. So I'm going to cut it off right at 10 p.m. Eastern. I looked at Knicks Go real carefully again, guys. Look who he's beaten in these monster efforts, right? I mean, the Cornhusker, Last Judgment, and Radar Superstar. The Whitney was a very impressive race visually. I'll give him that. But, again, it's behind Silver State and Maxfield are behind him. Okay, in the Lucas Classic, it's Independence Hall and Shared Sense. I mean, Pete, he is not beaten, on superstars. And in the Met Mile, although it was one turn, he lost that race. I don't know I mean, Knicks Go is fantastic, but I'm still a little bit dubious, Pete. And my question to you as we end the show here is Medina Spirit just going to put to the boots to Knicks Go? Or do you think there's any chance that Johnny V sits off Knicks go like a length or two.
I can't imagine, because I just don't think he could win that way. And again, he's riding a horse that is a potential winner in their mind, I assume. So his best game is to be on the front. So I mean, I don't know though. You don't hook up with Knicks Go and just go, nose to nose in 22-43. I mean, you don't go crazy, but I don't know any other way for Medina Spirit to win. I don't know any other way for Knicks Go to win. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place if you're one of their horses. And then with Knicks Go, I agree with you. He hasn't beaten the best in these best races. He's great on the turns. That's where he runs away from people. And I think the other thing with him is you're adding the extra furlong, which he's never done. So there's questions. There's enough questions for a horse that could be sub 2-1 to say, hey, there's enough talent around in this race that I could see him getting beat. I just hope that they don't screw up and let him just go on the lead. And then he just, he casually gets a break halfway through and then he's able to hold on. And I don't think that's going to happen, but
Brian, if they let Knicks Go somehow walk, I don't know what to say. I think I'm going to quit betting for 2 months. I mean, there's no possible way, Brian, that Bob Baffert in California is going to let a Brad Cox horse just walk on lead. Wouldn't you agree? I think he's going to. I think here's what I think, Brian. Sorry. I think if Baffert feels like he's not going to win the race, he's like, F you, Brad Cox. He's just going to absolutely take it to him. I think they're going to be blazing. What do you think is going to happen?
I think what's more likely is Brad Cox let Bob Baffert go and not respect him. I mean, how many times have we seen Bob Baffert get away with easy leads? Authentic, Medina Spirit in the Derby. He's on the outside. Maybe they don't respect Medina Spirit. It's possible. I don't think that'll be the instructions. But if something funky does happen, Medina Spirit could be the surprise one who gets away with an easier lead. He's John on the outside. And, maybe Knicks Go doesn't send for whatever reason. I think the instructions instructions are going to be to send. But how crazy would Twitter go if Bob Baffert in the Classic gets another easy lead and goes gate to wire? It would be so fitting. And then the race couldn't go official for 2 or 3 months because the Pistons haven't come back yet.
Folks, Brian has had some very nice hits. I'm not going to obviously tell the whole world, but Brian, I will bet you your pick 5 score that you talked about to me at Keeneland. I will bet that amount that Knicks Go is going to let Medina Spirit just go to the lead and then come around. There's the better chance of a meteor hitting this this show than that happening.
Well, I didn't think Rosario wasn't going to have his foot in the stirrup with Rock Your World either. Weirder things have happened.
I suppose. Guys, here's how we're on the show. We've got a few minutes left. I'm going to show. Here's my pick 5. Feel free, Brian and Pete, you can rip this to shreds if you like. I'm not going to go into detail, and then Pete will show yours. This is my sub $100 pick 5 ticket. Now listen, before anyone goes nutso on me, I do not play caveman tickets. I play ABC tickets. There's no way that I would weigh Aloha West equally with Jackie's Warrior in a pick 5. Okay, so no hate mail, nothing on the comments. This is not the ticket that I would play. I'm showing it just as a possible caveman ticket. I don't have anyone singled. At the end, Pete, I would just go with Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie, praying and hoping that the speed does develop. And I'm using Aloha West as a B. I'll just say I'm using him as a B in the sprint. I really think if something weird happens to Jackie's Warrior, Aloha West is the most likely winner after that. Any thoughts, either one of you, on this particular bet that I have?
Okay, Brian, you got anything first?
It looks like
Howard, you should stop the podcast.
It looks like the Andy Serling special to me. No singles.
You had to. Oh, look, my camera. What happened? You brought up Andy Serling, and the clouds just.
Don't take a stand and just use the A's.
Oh,
I mean, I just like taking a stand. Take a stand somewhere. Try and throw in some long shots.
I know.
I'm just giving you crap because, of course, I didn't put a ticket up, so you can't rip my ticket. But yeah, I like taking a stand. I'm a big advocate of signaling, but that ticket, I'm sure, looks fine. You got to find value along the way, and you know what? There's value in them hills because in Breeders' Cup, last year we saw Knicks Go one, Authentic one at low prices. We had favorites win along the way, and then we also had Order of Australia and things like that, where you can have 3 to 5s win and still make over $10,000 in the pick 5s.
By the way, it sure looks fine is the best compliment I've ever gotten from Brian Arrigoni in
I'm
my
sure
entire
it looks
life.
fine.
Brian, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Pete, as we end the show here, there's your stand, Brian. Pete's going with a big stand, signaling Jackie's Warrior. Wow, Pete, you have big balls there, sir.
Well, I mean, that like we always say, if you single in the first one, because then when that loses, then you can just play the pick 4 after that. But
I'm just giving you crap. Absolutely.
No. I mean, in one of those where I would like to do the same thing, though. I'd like to play a B ticket with maybe Aloha West, a couple horses actually in the sprint in case things go to hell, because I think that's the one where if it pops, you could set up a big price pick 5. So I maybe do a second ticket. But to stay under 100, like you asked, this is what I came up with.
Well, Pete, is it worth playing the pick 5, singling a 4 to 5 shot on the top? Or is it's the Breeders' Cup? The pool size is so big.
It's the Breeders' Cup. It's the pool size. And, all the rules, all the EV rules and all the police on Twitter, I sort of throw that out in like a day like the Breeders' Cup because it's going to pay. And I don't want to lose to a great horse. So it's not even defensive. He's the best horse in the race. I'm not going to throw him out because I want to get a bigger price ticket that I'm just going to throw away and rip up. So you have to be somewhat sensible in these things as well.
Yeah. Brian Arrigoni and Pete Visco, I just appreciate you guys coming on this long so much. I'm just going to put one last scroll up here about my show. The next time we're going to have a show, guys, is a week from tonight. I'm going to go an hour earlier just so we don't bump into NFL games on Thursdays. I have no idea who's going to be on. I'm sure we'll be talking about the Breeders' Cup. Any final comments, Brian, about your Breeders' Cup weekend as we close the show?
I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to be on. You got a great fan base here that asks some insightful questions and pays attention. So I just want to say thank you to you and thank you to the fans for tuning in. And hopefully everyone has a great weekend. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. I can answer any DMs or anything like that. I'm not always right, but I'm usually pretty good at least explaining why I was wrong.
Pete, any final comment?
No, I agree with Brian. I'm just really thankful to be on the show, and I love the show, and I love talking horses. And what better one to talk about than the Saturday of the Breeders' Cup?
Gentlemen, thanks a lot for coming on. Good luck in the Breeders' Cup, and I'm taking you off the screen. Crush it this weekend, guys, with your bets. Thanks, Brian and Pete. Appreciate it.
Good luck in the BCBC, guys.
Thanks a lot. All right, two great guys. Thank you. By the way, thanks for bearing with me the camera. I'm not sure what happened there, but Brian and Pete, I thought, did a great job. Brian Arrigoni, folks, the Canterbury meet happens during the summer. You can see him when they race at Canterbury. He's on the simulcast feed. He is their Paddock analyst, and he does a tremendous job. And he has a lot of really insightful picks. And Peter is an excellent handicapper. Want to thank those guys tremendously. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a very long week. I got my bags packed there a few doors away, ready to hit the road and go to Del Mar on a flight tomorrow night. Thanks, everyone. All of you who watch the show live, all of you are going to watch the replays of this. Again, if you want to receive the Race Day blog for free, the Breeders' Cup edition, there needs two things. One, you have to be a new subscriber to the YouTube channel. And number two, you need to send me a DM or send me an email so that I have your email. Please also smash that like button, guys. Again, the more you hit that thumbs up button beneath the screen, the more it tells YouTube this is a great show and people should watch it. So please smash the like button. And the last thing I will say is that on my YouTube page, I do have a donate button. If you look on my YouTube channel on the very top right-hand side of the screen, I do have a small donate button. If you appreciate all of the work that's been done on the show, all of our guests, if some picks come in for you that you like, please feel free to donate on the YouTube channel in the top right-hand corner through PayPal. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the last Breeders' Cup preview show of the week. I've been your host, Howard Kravitz, on the HHH Racing Podcast, episode 92. I want to hear everyone crush it this weekend with your picks at Del Mar in the Breeders' Cup. Send me DMs, send me emails. Let's all celebrate together with our hits this weekend. Take care, everyone. Have a great night and good luck at the Breeders' Cup.